Hello everybody, Matt here with Flaming Dice Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at X-Men Mutant Revolution, which is a new game by WizKids. And in case you don't know, Mutant Revolution was a re-theming of the Spartacus Blood and Sand game that was released while the show was live on the Starz Network. Now, I never got to play the Spartacus game, but I loved the Spartacus show. Spartacus and Firefly are probably the only shows that I've watched front to back multiple times. So I was really always excited to play the game. And by extension, I was excited to try this one out. So I picked it up, I've given it multiple playthroughs. Right now we're going to take a look at what comes inside of the box, see a little bit about how it plays, and then I'll meet you back here and tell you what I think about it. Let's take a look at what comes inside of X-Men Mutant Revolution. Now, in the center of the table is the game board. It, to be honest, looks a little bit blah, but this is where missions take place. Every mission takes place here. Doesn't matter if two schools are fighting each other or if you're fighting the Hulk, you fight here. A little bit bland, but I guess it serves its purpose. The game also comes with these minis, which look fantastic. Each one of the schools has a leader. So each one of the leaders is represented by these miniatures, whereas the other heroes that you can recruit are represented by these tokens. Heroes are represented in gold, students in gray, which I guess gets us to the theme of the game. There are these 4 schools: the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning, led by Wolverine; the New Charles Xavier School for the Gifted, led by Cyclops; Brotherhood of the Mutants, led by Magneto; and the X-Men, led by Storm. And each one of these schools has a different agenda, and they try to forward that by recruiting heroes and students to forward their cause. Now, the game also has power tokens, which are used to activate heroes and students' powers. Hope tokens, which are kind of like one of the current, or the main currency of the game, and they represent the school's hopes for the future. And then there are school tokens, which some missions require you to track damage to enemies or to place bets on the outcome of something, and you use these, and each school has their own token. Now there's multiple of these tokens. Matter of fact, there's a ton of these little round tokens. They're all the same size. They're very hard to keep track of. So I only got a few out just for the purpose of this video. There's these mission tokens, which are one of my biggest complaints about the game. They look the same, they just say mission on them, and every hero, whether it's a Sentinel or Mr. Sinister or whoever, they're represented by a mission token. There's Triumph and Injured tokens, which show when a hero is injured or when a hero has been triumphant in the arena. There's also bidding dials, and each school has one of these bidding dials, and during the recruit phase you can bid to gain control of new heroes or students. And that's pretty much what comes inside the game, other than a very nice instruction manual. Oh, and the cards. The recruit deck, which shows new heroes that you can recruit and add to your school. The plot deck, which are basically cards that allow you to either forward your own agenda or mess somebody up. They're sort of like scheming cards, so you can either help yourself, help you and an ally, hurt an opponent. There's a whole phase where you play those cards. And then the mission deck. And the mission deck just lays out a scenario where something's happening and all the schools have to respond. It's like a crisis, and all the schools have to respond to take care of the crisis. So let's take a look at some of the things individually and how the game plays. So let's talk about the point of the game and what a player's play area looks like. So this would be an example of middle of the game, whenever the school is developed and has recruited a few heroes. Now again, this is the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning, which is led by Wolverine. So anytime that a mission calls for or allows a player to use a leader, you can use the Wolverine miniature or the miniature of your school in the mission. Now usually the leader is excluded from being able to go on the mission. So you have to use your heroes, which are in gold, or your students, which are in gray. Now in this example, the Jean Grey school has Dagger and Nightcrawler as their heroes, Mercury, Blindfold, and Surge as their students. Again, I'm not too terribly familiar with all of these new heroes. I've never heard of any of those three students. But the students are generally weaker, the heroes are stronger, so most of the time, unless a mission requires you to send a student, you're going to want to send one of your heroes on the mission because they are more powerful, as judged by their stats. For example, Blindfold has an attack of 1, meaning he gets to roll 1 attack die when he attacks, a defense of 1, and a speed of 1. Whereas Nightcrawler is 3, 4, and 3, Dagger's 3, 3, 2, Wolverine's 5, 3, 4. So the students are substantially weaker. However, they do serve a purpose. At the beginning of a turn, each student generates a hope coins because they're the future of the school, so they provide the hope, or at least the school has high hopes for the students, I guess thematically is why they're called hope coins. Heroes, however, cost a hope coin, so it's always a balancing act between, yeah, the heroes are more powerful, but the students make you money. Now, again, this is the middle of the turn, so some of these heroes have used their power tokens, but each hero and student has a ability printed at the bottom of their card, and most of them, matter of fact, I think all of them, take power tokens to use. So your leader has a certain amount, heroes always have 2, and students always have 1. And in this example, Mercury has spent his token, and Nightcrawler has spent 1 of his. Everyone else is full. Now the point of the game is for a school to win the revolution, and that is done by gaining revolution points. And at the end of the turn, if only one school has gained 6 revolution points, they're the winner. If at the end of a turn more than one school has 6 revolution points, then there is a duke out for the end of for the final victor in the arena, just like the normal missions. Now there's also the bidding dial, which we'll go over whenever we look at bidding, and then there's a school charter card, and each school has this. And since Wolverine is the leader and can't participate willy-nilly in all the missions, he does have an ability, kind of like a command, that he can use to help his heroes or students if they're on a mission. So let's actually take a look at the game board and what a mission is like and how combat works. So each of the game's rounds is divided into 4 phases, the last of which is the mission phase. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the other ones. One is just an upkeep phase, which we're not going to get into all that because this is not a tutorial. Another is the recruitment phase, which we will look at after this. Another is the plot phase, where you play these plot cards. We're not going to worry too much with those. The cards do not have any artwork or anything on them. There's just a cost and then an effect as to what this card does. And again, those are just kind of scheme cards. Mission, however, are pretty in-depth. Now we're not going to look at everything. Again, this is not a tutorial. But at the end of each turn, you do draw a mission card. And in this example, we drew one called Showdown. And it says that 2 schools must each send a champion to battle each other in a showdown of epic proportions. Now, in this example, one school has sent Forge and the other has sent Nightcrawler. And while these would start across the arena from each other, we just moved them together for simplicity purposes. Now, each one of these heroes still has both of their power tokens to use. However, Forge's ability is pretty worthless in the arena, and it's really only used during the recruit phase. So Nightcrawler actually has an ability that can be used during missions, so he's probably going to have the advantage here. So during a mission, and again there's a lot more to this, but during a mission the player characters, in this case both of them are heroes, have 3 abilities they can use, or 3 actions they can use. They can move based on their speed stat, they can attack, or they can use a special action, which some missions call for. Now Nightcrawler, his ability is that he can teleport. Instead of moving normally, you may spend 1 power token to move to any unoccupied hex. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to do that. We're going to spend one of the power tokens off of his card, and he's going to teleport behind Forge. Now I've got these positioned up at the top left so that I can roll the dice here and you can see them. So now, that's one of Nightcrawler's 2 actions. His other is going to be to attack. The Nightcrawler has an attack value of 3 dice, and he rolls a 5, and a 3. Forge has 2 defense dice, so he's going to roll his defense dice. And he got a 4 and a 2. Now this uses the dice string method to score hits. So in this case, you compare the highest 2. So, and ties go to the defender, I should mention. So Nightcrawler's highest is a 5, and Forge's defense was a 4. That's a hit. His next highest was a 5. Forge's next highest was a 2. That's a hit. And then the 3, since it was 3 or more, any extra dice only hit if they roll a 3 or more. That is a hit as well. So the stats are shown off of board here, but I'm going to move them so that you can see them. Are shown with the red, green, and blue dice. Now these not only remind you what your character's stats are, they also serve as your, oh, excuse me, I moved the wrong one. They also serve as your character's hit points. So in this case, Forge took 2 hits, so I can choose 2 stats to roll down. So I can choose 3 stats to roll down. So let's say I wanted to roll down attack once and speed once. Now instead of having an attack of 3, a defense of 2, and a speed of 2, Forge only has an attack of 1, a defense of 2, and a speed of 1. If during the next turn he takes more damage and any one of these dice goes down to 0, and that can only be done after all 3 of them are at 1. Once 1 reaches 0, then that player character is defeated, and how many past 0, how many damage past 0 the player takes determines how injured the character is. They might have to be discarded from the game if you can't pay for them. They might take one of those injured tokens, as seen here. And then player characters are the same, or excuse me, non-player characters in the missions function the same way. For example, whenever the heroes have to fight, say, Captain America, Captain America will be represented by this little blah mission token. Now in the example mission that we just saw, Showdown, Nightcrawler was well on his way to winning, and we're going to say that he did win. So Nightcrawler, according to the reward portion of the card, it says each school that chose the winner correctly, because this was another scenario where players got to bid, and you could bid on the characters to see who wins. Each player or each school that chose the winner correctly gains 2 hope coins. Again, that's the currency. And then the victorious player character's school gains 1 revolution point. So the Jean Grey School for Higher Learning would get to move their revolution tracker 1 point closer to 6, which, if you remember, was the highest on the board. So they would get to move from, say, 4 to 5 or 2 to 3, or whatever, wherever they were. The last of the 4 phases that we're going to look at is going to be the recruitment phase, and that's where schools bid on upgrades for their heroes or new students. So in a 4-player game, you would lay out 4 cards and flip them over one at a time. So we're going to start on this end and flip over Displaced Cyclops. So that is a student card, and again, students generate hope coins, which is the currency of the game, or one of the main currencies of the game. So the schools that were interested in purchasing Displaced Cyclops would use their bidding dials, and I don't know if you can see this, but they're much like the Star Wars X-Wing dials, where there's a cutout and then there is a value from 0 to 14, I believe. Yep, 0 to 14. So if I was interested in Displaced Cyclops, I could bid, say, face down, in secret, I could bid 2. Everybody reveals at the same time. If I have the highest bid, then I get to spend my 2 hope tokens and purchase Displaced Cyclops. The round proceeds in that manner. Displaced Beast, you would bid for it or him, Psylocke, and then Namor. Now there's also training cards that can come up during the bidding phase. And training cards like this add +1 to your attack range. Allows you to make your hero stronger. And the bidding phase is my favorite part of the game. I like bidding games, especially ones that let you bid this high. A lot of bidding games only let you bid up to 5 or 6. This one lets you bid up to 14. So that can really add some strategy to the game, because hope tokens not only are used to bid for heroes, they're also bid to see who will lead the missions. And they're also used to revive heroes if they're injured during a mission. So there's a lot of strategy involved with the bidding. Welcome back, everybody. Now that we've seen what comes inside of X-Men Mutant Revolution and seen a little bit about how it plays, let's talk about my final thoughts, what I liked, what I didn't like. I think that if you're into comics, you're going to like this way more than somebody who isn't. Especially if you're up to date. Now, I haven't read comics since the late 80s, early 90s. Well, probably mid-90s to be fair. So a lot of this I'm not familiar with. A lot of these heroes I'm not familiar with. If you are into comic books and you're current with the Marvel Universe outside of the movies, I think you'll really like this a lot more than somebody like me would. Now the game comes with absolutely great minis. The minis are fantastic, but that's a double-edged sword. I actually wish they had spent less on the minis and maybe made the dice a little bit better. WizKids does the Dice Masters games. I don't have a box here, but it's in this box here, and they do these really great custom dice. I don't see why these dice had to be so generic. Again, I wish that the minis had been either probably actually absent from the game and just focused on making some of the other components nice, because some of them were really blah. All of the little tiny, the power tokens, the hope tokens, they're all the exact same size. The plot marker token, the school scoring token, everything, they're all the same size. So it makes setup and sorting these things a nightmare. I can't stand setting up this game. I don't like it at all. Another really good thing about the game, and I'm just going to flip back and forth here as I think about them, is the artwork. It's very reminiscent of when I read comic books, whenever I read X-Men, because X-Men was one of my favorites. So the artwork that's on the cards is great. On the flip side of that, the artwork for the board is very bleh. Now I don't know what they would have done, because the missions can take place anywhere from a duel between schools to, I guess, on city streets versus the Hulk or versus Captain America. But it's all just looks like it's just all this plain green grass. I don't know. And the outside is very boring. Seems like there would have been some artwork around the outside of the board. Maybe that's just a quibble. I don't know. Another good thing about the game is that there were some heroes that I don't hear a lot about that were very popular whenever I read comics. Psylocke and Gambit, they seem to be old favorites. They're in this game. Everything X-Men that I've seen, well, for the most part, they're always excluded. And they were such great heroes, I was glad to see them in Mutant Revolution. Another really great thing about the game is the dice string combat. How you compare the highest to the highest, and it goes down, and just one ability that can flip dice or reroll dice can change a hero getting 4 damage to getting no damage. That's pretty cool and pretty powerful. Again, the things that I don't like, setup is just horrific. It really is. The insert in there, I've just done away with trying to keep it straight. I don't use the insert. I had to switch to plastic bags because there were 4 rows and all of those tokens that were the exact same size. It was a task and a half to get them in there and keep them sorted. It was just easier to abandon it and use plastic bags. Again, the dice are extremely bland. I wish they had done something different with it. I guess I see why they didn't, because those numbers do represent stats, but it just seems like they could have been a little bit nicer. The biggest thing that I disliked about the game was that all the tokens look exactly the same. They were the same size. It makes handling kind of a pain. The last thing, and probably the biggest complaint about the game, was the missions. Every mission feels pretty generic because I understand that the game couldn't include a bunch of miniatures. Not for every hero that's in the game. It'd be a $300 game. But just with the tokens moving around that plain green board and the bad guys in the missions represented by those plain round mission tokens. Doesn't matter what the mission is. If it's the Hulk, if it's the Sentinel, if it's the Hellfire Sentinel, if it's Captain America, every one of them is that little round token that says mission on it. That's pretty boring, especially considering there are so many tokens in this game. It seems like they would have made more, maybe some square ones or some larger round ones to represent the enemies. I don't know. But overall, I was just very disappointed in the look of the game. However, the game plays pretty fun. It's actually pretty engaging. I ran X-Men Mutant Revolution through the Flaming Dice Review scoring system, and that scores the game based on 8 categories, including theme, artwork, setup and portability, replayability, accessibility, fun. And X-Men Mutant Revolution got an 84 out of 100, still in the good game score. And one side note about that, I think if you're into comics, especially with all this the time displaced characters, which are all present, well, I say all, a lot of them are present in the game. So there's Displaced Beast, Displaced Angel, Displaced Cyclops, all of those are in the game. So if you're up to date on the Marvel Universe, I have a feeling that score will go up probably into the 88, 89 range if you're current on Marvel and are really into the current storylines for the Marvel Universe, again, outside of the movies. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and visit the website at www.flamingdicereviews.com. We put up a lot of videos and written articles from everything from our latest gaming night results to cool new accessories and things that are coming out on the market, X-Wing, Armada, stuff like that. So just give it a visit. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.